teaching Sharanagati, because Jamunacharya says, or writes or claims, that Ramayana is a treatise, a comprehensive treatise in many, many, many ways on Sharanagati. So, in the Hare Krishna movement, we certainly know what Sharanagati means. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written 86 songs entitled Sharanagati, and it follows those 6 principles of Sharana from Padma Purana, and details and details and details what that Sharanagati is. Similarly, Ramayana is such a treatise. So Sita plays the part from the time that she, Leela-wise, has a desire for the first time in her life, other than the desire of pleasing Ram. Because that's what living entities, that's what jivas do in this material world. So we do, and what keeps us bound here, having a desire separate from Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So that comes when she, in her faint-heartedness, has a desire for the golden deer. Separate from what's the pleasure of Ram. She wants to enjoy. And then Govindaraja says, Lakshman performs the function of guru and advises her or instructs her, don't fall for it. It's a trick. Not only is it a Rakshasa, it's Maricha. Because it was known, and there's details another time, maybe this evening or Sunday evening we'll tell. Maricha already had a reputation, a bad reputation, not only being a Rakshasa, but a Rakshasa that had mystic powers who could assume different forms. Parameshwari, you're sitting right in front of this mataji, so you just find another place. Find another place. Thank you. So, Maricha had a reputation of being able to assume the form of a deer, because he, Vriksha, and 2 other Rakshasas teamed up. They left Lanka. They also had shape-changing mystic powers, and they assumed forms of deer and went into the hermitages, the ashrams of sages in the forest, so that the sages would relax. It's just 3 deer. And when their guard was down, they would attack the sages and devour them. With fangs and the whole thing. You know, deer don't have fangs, but they were mystical. And that was their program. So it was known that Maricha had this capacity. So Lakshman said, this is a trick. This is Maricha. And how did Sita respond? She just ignored him. She didn't say, well, I don't think so. She didn't say anything. She just ignored him. And then she went on to say, this is Govindaraja explaining, she went on to say, wouldn't it be nice, even if you can't capture the deer, you can shoot the deer, and you and Ram, we can sit on the deerskin. Now that's not Sita. Sita is the embodiment of compassion. Sita, when she was in Lanka, Hanuman wanted to smash, totally destroy the Rakshasas that were tormenting, because he heard their torments and he saw their torments from the Ashok tree. And he couldn't tolerate it. And she had this nice speech saying, even, everybody makes a mistake and they should be forgiven. And so she was being compassionate upon them, wishing that they be delivered from that misfortune that they were finding themselves in. That's Sita. There's other. Govindaraj says, when Sita was taken to Lanka, one of the functions of her being taken to Lanka was to deliver Vibhishan. Because Vibhishan was known, even Shilparnaka commented that when she was asked by Ram, who are you? She started to list who she is and her relatives, and she mentioned Vibhishan's name. This is in Valmiki Ramayan. And, Vibhishan's not like the rest of us. But he didn't have Bhakti yet. So Sita went to bring Bhakti to Vibhishan and his wife. And they became Bhaktas, and they did some service for Sita and Ram. Because they were virtuous, they weren't, anyway. Sita's not like just ignore the wisdom of Lakshman. Sita's not, let's sit on the deer skin, kill the deer, and let's sit on the deer skin, we'll have a nice time. That's not Sita. Insulting Lakshman like she did, that's not Sita. So she was acting that way, according to Govinda Raja, to perform a different function, an additional function. That additional function is the function of a living entity like us that has some devotion for the Supreme like us, but also has some desires separate from the will of the Supreme like us. We're mixed devotees. We're devotees. We're trying to be devotees. But there's a mix of other. So much for Krishna, so much for me, so much for Krishna, so much for me, Krishna, Krishna. So you have that's our mantra. The mixed devotee mantra. So she was playing that part so that Ram could exhibit his feelings of deep pain seeing living entities that have some attraction for him but are forgotten. And he underwent such a big ordeal to try to get back Sita. Now, there's other layers and other layers of that pastime for sure. Like Vipralambha and so many other things. The impetus for getting to Lanka and killing Ravana, and one of the main purposes of his appearance, Pritranaya Sadhunam, Vinashaya Shaduspratam, Dharma Samsthapanartaya. So he was fulfilling that. There's multiple things, but one of those strains that you don't see if you just, if you're looking to, without the help of these acharyas, I wouldn't understand that Sita was playing the part, just like Arjuna was playing the part of a conditioned soul. How is that? Because Krishna induced. How is it that Sita had a separate desire than whatever it is that's pleasing to Ram? By the Lord's internal potency, so that Ram can exhibit the pastime of rescuing. And to rescue Sita, how was it done? He stayed in Rishamukh. First it was the assignment was find Sita. And then the Vanas were sent in different directions, and because Ravana was known, from Jatayu it was known, from Sugriva it was known, he was headed in the southerly direction. But he could have gone anywhere. He could have started in the southerly direction, and who knows where he ended up. I mean, it's specifically described. That could have been in another world, it could have been something that I learned from the fourth canto Bhagavatam about Dhruva. Dhruva Loka. Where's Dhruva Loka? In our universe. Where is it? Where is it? Where is the pole star? As far as the structure of the universe, where is the pole star?
Abodha Brahmaloka. Abodha Brahmaloka.
No. It's above Swargaloka. Let me say. we know the structure of the universe is there's 7 upper and 7 lower planetary systems. 7 plus 7 is? 14. 7 upper, 7 lower. The 7 lower, that's described in the final chapter of Canto 5, the hellish planets. And then the 7 upper, we primarily know about 3 of the 7. Bhu, Bhuvar, and Svargaloka. Those that know Gayatri Mantra know those 3. Bhu, that's Bhumandala. Svarga Loka is heaven, and in between, Bhuva Loka. That's where the Rakshasas reside. They're above the earth, planet, and below Svarga. They're competitors of the demigods, but they're very powerful, very mystical, and they sometimes make their residence on earth. And sometimes they don't. So, Dhruva is above the heavenly realm and below the next 4. That's where Dhruva Loka is, according to the 5th canto Bhagavatam. Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Brahmaloka. It's below Maharloka and the topmost region of the heavenly realm. That's where Dhruva is, Dhruva Loka. So they didn't know where he had gone. He was headed in a southerly direction, but they didn't know where he went. So Hanuman was with those that went in the southerly direction. And this is Govindaraj detailing how Bhagavan wants to give rescue to the errant jiva, you and me. There's some bhakti, and there's some other stuff. So what does Bhagavan do to rescue us from the clutches of forgetfulness? Guru. It's one of the principal instructions of Sharanagati. So Govindaraja teaches there is a sequence of the Acharya Hanuman being anointed. And there are steps. The first step is the meeting of the two. And reading carefully the meeting of the two, Ram speaks to Lakshman in the presence of Hanuman, analyzing the qualities of Hanuman. He doesn't first speak to Hanuman. He speaks to Lakshman about Hanuman. So Bhagavan is assessing the potential guru, because the mission is get back this jiva that's, in this metaphorical sense, that's errant. How to find Sita and bring Sita back? So he analyzes his speech, he analyzes his face, he analyzes his voice, he analyzes his demeanor. He finds, by analysis, here's a candidate. And then Hanuman takes Lakshman and Ram to Sugriva. Then Ram hears from Sugriva the virtue and character and capacity of Hanuman. Many steps later, when the Vanaras are sent in different directions, Sugriva says, amongst all the Vanaras, Hanuman, I have most confidence in you. Surely you will find Sita, because the assignment was 2, really simple. Find Sita, report back. So Ram then empowers. So this is the empowerment of Guru in the form of specifically 2 things. He gives the ring to show to Sita so that Sita will know that you're representing me, it's not a trick. And then the utterance, you will be successful. Because that's all it takes. You know, the personality of Godhead giving the empowerment to the Guru, or in the line of disciplic succession, the previous Acharya giving the empowerment, without that specific utterance. Now, that there is such an utterance in Chaitanya Charitamrita for all of us. Without, that's another topic. But so it's part of the empowerment. So then there's the search, and finally it comes to, they're at the shore of the sea, and Sampati confirms that that's where Sita is, so who can go, and who can. But Hanuman, as you know, Hanuman has this curse and benediction from the Brahmanas that he wouldn't remember his powers unless somebody that knew his powers uttered them. There's the whole story connected with that. Then Jambavan, of all people, knows the history of Hanuman, so he starts reciting the history, and then Hanuman regains remembrance of his power. He goes to Mahendra Mountain, and there's this detailed description. If you remember, those of you who are familiar with Ramayana, he's standing on top of Mahendra Hill, and his body's getting bigger and bigger, and his body's getting bigger, he's preparing to jump, and then so many things happen. Water comes out of the mountain, and snakes come out of the mountain, and the sages come out of the mountain, and the apsaras and the kinnaras come out of the mountain. Those were taking shelter there. Minerals come. So the commentary says this is part of the function of Guru, is before they launch to do their service to Bhagavan, they have to qualify themselves and prepare themselves. You know, think of, for example, what Prabhupada did before coming to the West. As standing on Mahendra Mountain, preparing himself for Mission Impossible. Now, he was certainly qualified, but Prabhupada was feeling himself unqualified. It's abundantly understood from the Lamrita and Prabhupada's own statements. And then he's ready. And then, like an arrow fired from the bow of Ram, off he goes. Prepared, empowered, carrying forward. And then he lands, there's obstacles crossing, and then he lands in Mankini, and that scene, and so many things. Sundarakanda, before the battle, Yudhakanda. So, one more thing I just want to share, and then we'll see if there's some discussion. Govinda Raja writes that the very first verse of Sundarakanda is accepted by Sri Vaishnavas as a verse that is recommended whenever you begin an undertaking, whatever, there's so many things we begin. You know, you enroll in school, or you start a business, or you get a new job, or you move into a new house, or whatever it is. Kind of like, you know, we may have our sanskars for some of those things. And they have this first verse of Sundarakanda that's the invocation of auspiciousness for an undertaking. Because that's what Sundarakanda is about. It's Hanuman is going to go do Mission Impossible. Find Sita and report back. That's the assignment. He does additional things which Ram recognizes that was the simple assignment. But Hanuman, you're the best because you understand my heart. And with that understanding my heart, Super Soul has given you intelligence, how to understand what will be best in the situation. So he does additional things beside those two things. But he does them very smart. And he does them in such a way, this is just some appreciation of Sundar and Hanuman's work. Even when he thinks he knows what's right, twice, just Sita's word checks him. Like, I'm going to kill those Rakshasas. And all it takes is her word, and he understands she's right. He just honors her. Now, some persons that think they're right, they can't hear from anybody. What to speak of a qualified person, a truly qualified person, they can hear from the proper source. And another example is, he said, I can't bear to see you in this tortured condition. Get on my shoulders. She looks at him, he's this little monkey. Oh yeah, get on your shoulders. And he shows her this gigantic form. And, she gives very reasonable answers that says, thanks, but no thanks. Because although you may be capable, when you're sailing through the air, I'll fall off into the ocean. And besides, I've taken a vow that I'll not even be touched by another man. So, there's a second reason. And the third reason is, Ram should come. So you carry my message to Ram. And here's my message. He gave the message. Please come quickly. I don't know how long I can endure this difficult situation. Please come quickly and rescue me. And then told him a story to tell to Ram that would verify, in fact, he had met Sita, because only Sita and Ram do the story. You know the story. So he accepted. She's right. That's a redeeming quality. When you think you know what's right, and all it takes is some wise words from another capable person, and there's no argument. Not like, well, wait a minute, let's negotiate this a little bit. Hanuman is such a person. So here's the sloka. Hanuman, subduer of enemies, resolved to find the whereabouts of Sita, carried away by Ravana, he followed the path of the Charanas. And commentary goes like this. The two terms are specifically emphasized. Shatru, Karshana. Shatru is to subdue. Shatru Karshana is the subduer of enemies. Now it could have said the killer of enemies, but it doesn't say he's the subduer of enemies. Because a function, this is Govindaraj, a function of Guru is not to kill people that aren't lined up with Bhagavan, but is to help them, be an emissary to help them subdue the enemies. The enemy that's within, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Mada, Matsarja. So that's a function. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu served that function. He didn't kill demons, he killed the demoniac mentality through his Sankirtan movement and the methodologies that he employed to bring persons who were in the dark age of Kali to the position of transcendence and love of God. So like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so also Hanuman in this guru function. And the charanas, so this means the perfected souls, great great personalities. He, Hanuman, didn't, or a qualified guru doesn't create something new and novel. that there has to be flexibility in time, place, and circumstance consideration. At the same time, total reliance upon great personalities, perfected souls, relying upon their, nice example, in principle, and being able to extract principle from detail, and how to apply, this is an acharya function, how to apply principle in different circumstances. Ordinary persons who aren't of such caliber should not even attempt to do that. I mean, we all have to do that to some extent. Just a practical example. There's some children running around upstairs. And, no, that's okay. So the children, the younger generation people, have different challenges than the older generation people. When you spend time with younger generation people, and you just hear with an open ear, especially the thoughtful ones, they'll be able to explain, our challenges are different than your challenges. Our outlook is different. Not principles, but details are different. And our challenges go something like this. I mean, if you spend time with them, I spend time with them, and they're pretty clear. Some of them, at least, are pretty clear what those challenges are. One of them, challenge-wise, is the abundant availability of technology and video games, and parents have a concern, and thoughtful kids have a concern. Not just kids born in Indian families that teach them, values. Western young people also. I mean, I'm just sharing with you. In short, those of us that care about others need to be able to understand the value system and the challenges met by whoever it is that we're speaking to, so that we can apply principle relevant to the person we're speaking to. Yes? That's not easy. Because we're accustomed to seeing things through our own lens. That's common. It's uncommon to be able to take that lens away and hear what another person is going through and see through the lens of what that other person is going through. And there are certain things that are generational types of categories of lenses, and then there's varieties amongst those. Because if you want to reach the hearts and the minds of others, that's an acharya function. You have to understand the other person and be able to apply principle according to the needs of the other individual or groups of individuals. Prabhupada had such capacity. I was hearing a chapter 1 Bhagavad Gita class Prabhupada was giving in Hyderabad. And he was very explicit. I found it interesting how explicit he was. Apparently he was on a Pandal stage, and there were some young American, whatever they were, sannyasi's followers on the stage with him. And Prabhupada was speaking to the audience, just like these young American, Western, European boys and girls. Their lives were simply made up of sinful activity, and by hearing again and again, those are activities to be avoided. Who you really are is spirit soul. You're not the body, you're not the mind. Saying it again and again and again, they have now understood. They were in the darkest of ignorance. By saying it again and again, now they've understood. And now they're living their lives accordingly. He was very explicit. And sometimes people object. He's saying it again and again. But it was purposeful to say it again and again, because it wasn't getting through and he knew it. So it didn't go on to, higher math. He was doing 1 + 1 is 2. Until it was really clear. The elementary, you're not this body. And if you're not this body, then what do? You got a body, what do you do with it? You engage the senses, Rishikesha, Rishikena Sevanam. That's what you do. And then the audience he was speaking to was in Hyderabad. And then he took the audience to the next place. You all know that Krishna is the personality of Godhead. You've heard it since childhood, but you don't live your lives accordingly. So let me say it again and again. You have to live your life accordingly. And so forth and so on. He was tireless, not like battering ram, relentless, but just very patient and giving transcendental sound vibration until gradually it cleansed the covering of the diamond, polishing the diamond so it would sparkle. He had different approaches for different groups of people, and even different individuals. He would relate to different individuals in a different way. I share a little story, a Prabhupada story that I heard. We'll come back to Ramayana shortly. From Harisori Prabhu. Some of you know who Harisori is. He was Prabhupada's servant. He traveled with two people, a secretary who was a GBC person and a servant. And the secretary would change every month, different GBC person, and the servant would stay with him through the changes of the secretary. And the secretary, he was training to go out in their GBC field and understand Prabhupada's mood and method. And the servant was just to be his servant. So one of the things that Harisori shared was sometimes he would have ladies cooking, and he had this procedure that exactly at noon he would take bath, sit down with new cloth, new tilak, chant Gayatri, and when he was done with Gayatri, his expectation, the training was hot prasadam and chapati. And the chapati was to be like a balloon. I'm making this shape, puffed up. And then Prabhupada would take his finger and poke his finger, and steam would come out of the chapati. And he would smile. And then he would take a piece of the chapati, and from the piece of the chapati, some sabji, and that was like a spoon, the chapati. And when the chapati was done, the next chapati was supposed to come. And he didn't eat too many, but it was like, he was very strict about it. And when there wasn't a chapati to replace chapati number one, he raised his voice and said, "Where is Pulika?" She was the mataji that was doing the cooking. And he scolded her severely. And she left the room crying. And Prabhupada smiled and turned to Harisori and said, "I can't do this with most women. I never chastise women because they can't take it. But I can chastise Pulika." And he smiled. He was very discriminating about how he would connect his loving disciples to him. Different, according to the personality. That's an Acharya principle. Because he was guided by Super Soul, and he was conscious what he was doing, when he was doing, as he was doing. So, back to Ramayana. Hanuman had such a function, and such a capacity, and such an empowerment. And he had his powers that were given to him from when he was, little child, monkey, by the demigods and so forth and so on. But he knew how to use them, and he was never proud. He was always very humble, and always in a service mood. There's many outstanding things that are pointed out in, of course, anyone reading Ramayana can find their favorite sections also, but Govindaraja points out a number of them that are just very special. So, this evening I'm going to speak on the same topic, some different things from these 18 points. Let's see, maybe we'll speak something tomorrow. I'm not, see where Super Soul takes me for tomorrow evening. At the temple. So that's congratulations to the younger generation devotees here for being very peaceful and sitting through all this. Ramayana is a nice topic, but it's pretty easy to get restless when you're little. So compliments to you. Any discussion or questions or comments?
Sure. What's the time period of Govindraj?
Yeah. He lived in the 1600s, early 1700s. So a few centuries after Ramanujacharya. His place of residence was at Tirupati. He worshipped a deity in Tirupati his whole life. One evening, the deity appeared in his dream and ordered him, instructed him to compile a commentary on Ramayana. And so, humbly and reluctantly he did. And in the introductory section, he explicitly says, I haven't generated anything, I've just gathered what previous acharyas have written and explained, and I've assembled together in an orderly fashion. That was the timing, a little bit about his background.
So when Rama instructed Hanuman, saying, find Sita and report back,
Yeah.
does Rama knows that Hanuman can bring Sita back? Or
Well, Bhagavan knows everything, doesn't he? But in Leela, he says, I have full confidence in you. Next sentence, you will be successful. By that utterance, it's done.
I have two questions.
Okay.
Like you explained, there are 12 rasas, 5 primary and 7 secondary.
Yes.
So you say like for sorrow is Lord Ramchandra.
He is the presiding deity of. That information, by the way, is Jiva Goswami's commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That's where that information comes from.
So for each rasa there is a...
Yes, there's a presiding deity of
Okay.
the primary and secondary. Now, how do I know that? Jiva Goswami wrote it. That's how we know it. And what he writes in, what Rupa Goswami writes is what Prabhupada expresses in Nectar Devotion. It's not, it appears to be sorrow, but it's an ecstasy.
But ecstasy is another rasa?
Huh?
Ecstasy is another rasa? Or no?
Which one?
Ecstasy.
Ecstasy? No, it's a general category, and there's categories, there are types of ecstasies. I'll go a little bit further with this since you're asking. You have two questions, that was one. Okay. Chivalry is another secondary rasa. Yes? So, Bhishma Dev exhibited chivalry as a secondary rasa. His primary rasa, Bhishma Dev, is dasya, servitorship to Krishna. So how can a servitor want to kill the best friend of his beloved master, Krishna? It's chivalry. He wanted to show this glory of Krishna, of Bhaktavatsala. He knew Krishna would not permit Arjuna to be killed. But he was exhibiting the secondary rasa, wanting to show Krishna's great quality. He knew who would be defeated by Krishna. So he took a vow. I'll kill Arjuna. And hang on. That's another, there's different, also correct, but that's one of the explanations of why he took the side of the Kauravas, to be on the opposite side of Krishna, to enter into the secondary rasa with Krishna. Now there's other explanations that are also given, and they're not wrong and this one's right, but that's one of the reasons. Now your second question.
Second question is, Goddess Sita, she got attracted by golden king.
Yes.
Is it also connected to the other story? I mean, I know this
Connected to what?
other story like of Vedavati, who was sent as Sita.
That's an interesting question, and it's complex. It's complex in the sense that there are different Ramayanas, and in those different Ramayanas, like for example, in Valmiki Ramayana, there's no mention at all of a Maya Sita. No mention at all. However, two differences than that one, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Maya Sita. Correct? Yes? You familiar?
Padmavati.
No, that's a second example. That's okay. Let's go to the one you're familiar with. The TTD website gives on their website the history that you're referring to, which is not Valmiki Ramayana, because they speak of the Maya Sita. So the TTD website goes something like this: that Padmavati is Vedavati. And Vedavati, the description of Vedavati matches the Valmiki Ramayana in that, for the final kanda, where Vedavati was going to be violated by Ravana, and as he grabbed her hair and was ready to molest her, with her hand, now some versions say by mantra, but with her hand she cut her hair, and she entered into fire, uttering before she entered into fire, in my next life, I'll be the cause of your death, because you violated me. Now, that's Valmiki Ramayana, that's what the TTD says, but the TTD says something else. What's that? That is something else that's not in Valmiki Ramayana is before Ravan came to kidnap Sita, this Vedavati that had entered into the fire was in the care of Agni, and Agni switched. No mention in Valmiki Ramayana. The real Sita with Vedavati, and it was Vedavati that Ravan kidnapped, the false Sita, and when the false Sita was told to enter into the fire, the real Sita, which had been trusted by Agni to his wife, Swaha, this is TTD website, then the real Sita was brought out by Agni and entrusted again to Ram. So now there's the Vedavati, and according to TTD, Sita says, she is the one who suffered for 11 months. Please accept her as wife also. And TTD website says, Ram says, in this life I will not accept, but in my next appearance. So Vedavati in her next appearance became Padmavati, was married to. That's what their website says. That's not Valmiki Ramayana. And then there's other versions. There are, the Sri Vaishnavas in Tirupati are not going to just write fiction. I don't know what the scriptural reference is for that. I'm sure there is some scriptural reference. I don't know what it is, so don't ask me what it is, because I don't know. But there's some reference that they use to say what they say. And then hang on. So there's other accepted by Vaishnava acharyas, not just like scholars, but Vaishnava acharyas, that do accept that there was, before the Sita was kidnapped, just like Kurma Purana. So here's the other reference. Ready? It's a new reference. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in his South India tour. He leaves Sri Rangam. One of the places he goes shortly after that, it's quite distant geographically, but mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He visits a place where there's a Ram Bhakta. And he's constantly chanting Ram's name, Ram, 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 Ram. Incessantly chanting Ram's name, Ram Bhakta. The Ram Bhakta invites Lord Chaitanya to have lunch at his place. Lord Chaitanya accepts, I'll go do my midday duties, and he comes after midday duties, and the Ram Bhakta is sitting there chanting Ram's name. And Lord Chaitanya asks him, what is your intention? And the Ram Bhakta says, I'm waiting for Lakshman to bring back the ingredients from the forest so I can prepare lunch for you and offer to Lord Ram and then offer the remnants to you. The commentary says, Lord Chaitanya understood he was a Rasika Bhakta. It was a spontaneous mood of meditation in service to Ram. So after some time he began his cooking, and then he prepared the meal and offered. Then Lord Chaitanya accepted the meal and said, okay, now you should take your meal. He said, I'm fasting till then. Why? Because Sita's been kidnapped. How can I maintain my life when Sita's been kidnapped? I'm going to sit here and fast till death. And Ram said, no. Oh, it's going to be Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. No. It's not possible. This is not Valmiki Ramayana. It's not possible for Sita to be touched by a demon like Ravan. Trust me, my dear Brahmin. The real Sita was not kidnapped by Ravan. Trust me. Break your fast. So he accepted. He trusted him. Lord Chaitanya, the map shows from where that Brahmin lived and way down south. He received a copy of Kurma Purana, in which it is said it was a false Sita that was kidnapped. He had a copy made, brought it all the way back by foot to the. Didn't make a scanned copy and send him a text message. He walked back with a copy and gave it to the Brahmana. See, it's confirmed. Maya Sita. Not Valmiki Ramayana. But Lord Chaitanya accepted. So there's different authorized versions of Ramayana besides, that's what it tells me, than Valmiki Ramayana. Although Valmiki Ramayana is the gold standard. We hold everything against Valmiki Ramayana. But there are some things that are not in Valmiki Ramayana that Lord Chaitanya accepted without more without more details. Now, does that take care of your second question? No, he had his hand up first and then you're next. Okay, go ahead.
I have a single question. As you said in the class, the Srimad Bhagavatam or Ramayana is a commentary of Gayatri Mantra. So
I didn't study that section of Govindaraja's commentary or explanation of the 18 points. All I know is he lists the section where each of the phrases of Gayatri Mantra are identified. I haven't gone there and studied what he wrote, so I can't elaborate further. Sorry.
that's fine. My question was what is so special about Gayatri Mantra?
Oh,
That's
it's accepted within the Vedas that it's the mother of, she's Mama, and from her come many babies. She's the mother of all Gayatris. And there's different Gayatris, but she's the mother of all Gayatris, and there's different Gayatris. So it holds special prominence. Gayatri Mantra, the Rig Veda, Om Bhurvar, etc. It's just, what the totality of the Vedas say about that fact, I don't know. I just know that it's a commonly accepted fact that the Vedas say that's the mother of all other Gayatri Mantras. And there are multiple Gayatri Mantras.
multiple.
Multiple. Just like in our sampradaya, there's multiple Gayatri mantras. Let's do this. In Lord Brahma, you read Brahma Samhita. He received 2 Gayatri mantras. That was his tapa. He meditated on Gayatri mantra. Right? From Brahma Samhita. How did Brahma become self-realized? Chanting Gayatri that he received, one from the prototype Saraswati and the other from the flute of Krishna. And we receive those same Gayatri mantras when we become Brahmanically initiated in ISKCON. And those are 2. In addition to the Brahma Gayatri, or the Gayatri mantra from Rig Veda. And there's others, Gayatri mantras. Is that okay? You sure?
Okay.
He's
Not
digesting.
Not fully.
Mataji.
I have a question. I missed that part. You said that someone was, he knew that he cannot defeat Krishna,
Someone cannot what?
that he cannot defeat Krishna, so he went on the car of tea. Who was that?
Bhishma.
Bhishma, grandfather?
Oh,
Bhishma.
Bhishma.
Should I say it again?
yeah. So Bhishma, he was not on the pond of tea.
That's correct. So, question for you and all the scholarly devotees here. Huh? He's a great devotee of Krishna. How can Bhishma, he knew all the intrigue, all the nastiness, all the attempted murder, all the bad, dirty stuff that the Kauravas did. How can he fight on their side?
Because he had promised he will take care of Hastinapura, and he was fighting for the
Okay, so supposing you give a promise, and then there's a higher principle. Sarvadharmam parityaja, mamekam sharanam vraja.
No, you should go to the higher promise.
Yeah. So why didn't he?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. I explained it. Here's some other reasons. Well, one of them was chivalrous rasa. He wanted to be on the opposite side and fight with Krishna, and be shot with Krishna's arrows, and shoot Krishna with his arrows, and Krishna would go, ah.
But he was not shooting Krishna, because Krishna was just a character.
Yeah, but he was firing arrows, and Krishna would
Krishna-
get in the way of the arrows that were aimed at Arjuna, and Arjuna's going, oh no, Krishna's being hit with arrows. And Krishna's going, ah.
So he wanted salvation, that's why he went to the other
No,
side.
no, that's mundane. He's a bhakta.
Bhakti.
He doesn't want anything but Krishna's pleasure. That's the higher. And then there's a secondary rasa that enhances the primary rasa. That's the higher understanding. There's many other understandings, not the other understandings are 0. But the higher understanding is this one. And it's also written by our acharyas. Krishna wanted to show, you're going to like this one. Krishna wanted to show, doesn't matter who you are, if you don't protect women, finished. It's such an important principle. If you don't, and he didn't. He could have.
He did.
Right in the assembly, he could have, said the right things. He was silent.
Why was he like that?
Krishna wanted to show.
No, but why was he silent? Because
I'm giving the answer. Krishna wanted to show. And so he was using the instrument of his dear devotee grandfather Bhishma to show. If you don't, finished. It took some time, but finished. Krishna wanted to show. That's why he didn't speak.
Yeah, my question is, Bhishma Pitama, he was a very just guy, very nice.
Very just guy. That's it.
But what happened? Why did he keep quiet when?
I gave the answer. You didn't hear it.
No, that when Draupadi was.
I know what you're saying,
Uh-huh.
but you're not hearing. I'll say it one more time, but don't ask the same question again. Krishna's in his heart, right? And he's a pure devotee, right? He wants nothing other than what Krishna wants, right? That's what pure devotees want. And he said nothing.
Because Krishna wanted that.
Because Krishna wanted to show through his devotee, grandfather Bhishma, you can be Pitamaha, you can be one of the 12 Mahajans, one of the greatest authorities of all time. And if you don't protect women, finished. Krishna wanted to show. So he was using Bhishma as his instrument, so he couldn't speak. He didn't speak. Super Soul prompted him to say nothing.
Thank you.
He got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Only took 4 times. Yes.
In continuation of that, so when I see there is a bear helping Rama, so that bear also wants to fight with Rama. Can I assume the same kind of rasa that Bhishma and Rama, this bear has?
Which bear are you speaking about?
Jamba.
Jambavan. That, yeah. Not Ram, but Krishna. Not Ram.
No, but he wanted to fight with Rama, but later he fights with Krishna.
No, he didn't want to fight with Rama. Why do you get that idea? Why did he want to fight with Rama? Where do you hear that?
In one of the Ramayans. I
No. The situation, I mean, I don't know what Ramayana you read or heard or, a comic book or something. But that's not any Ramayana that I've heard of. Rather, it's very specific with Krishna's pastimes. He was blinded because of his attachment to his child. Inordinately attached, so much so he couldn't even recognize. So, because of that attachment, he was fighting as a father should protect their child. But he was so attached to the child and that mood of protecting the child that he was blind to Krishna. Krishna was smiling. Krishna wanted to tussle. So his devotee was giving him a tussle. And then he realized after 28 days, the curtain was drawn back. I was too much attached. That's what happens when we have to do duty, but we can't just blindly do duty or blindly ignore duty because you're too much attached. In the case of the father of Dhruva, he was too much attached to his second queen. So he was silent. He neglected his duty. So you can make mistakes if you're too much attached. So you have to be detached to be a father, but not too much attached or too much detached. If you're going to be a father, you have to have balance. And who's at the center? Attachment to Krishna. You go too much this way or too much that way, you're in the ditch. Yes.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for the enlightenment. I have one question. Sometimes I hear that when Ram is preparing the bridge construction,
Yeah.
so because on the stone it has been written Ram name, it was floating. Sometimes we hear that because Nal or Nil throwed the stone, because he had that bone, the stones were floating. So can you please help us understand how we need to see that?
Well, I like Valmiki Ramayana myself. And this other version, as far as I understand, if somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, that's Tulsi Ramayana. And it's not like Tulsi Ramayana, we just, toss it away. But it's not in Valmiki Ramayana. And it's not that because he got this blessing or benediction from Samudra that the rocks could float. It's his inconceivable potency that makes anything happen. By his inconceivable potency, what to speak of rocks floating, big planets are floating in the sky. How heavy are those big planets with mountains and oceans and thises and that's? Effortlessly, by his potency. Who can, so what's the limit to his unlimited potency? By his potency, by his simply willing, there can be a bridge without floating rocks. So this can be an explanation, that can be an explanation, and behind them all is the Satya Sankalpa Shakti of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He desires something, and that's it. That's how it happened. So it can happen this way, or that way, or combination. No problem. How's that for an answer? Is that?
Thank you. So Valmiki Ramayana says that it's because.
It doesn't say because. It says the rock floated. And so yes, that it does describe Samudra, but Samudra makes a recommendation. How can we cross? So I want your help. So I will help. But it doesn't say I will help by making the rocks float. I will make the rock float, therefore you can make a bridge. It doesn't say that.
It doesn't specifically say that this person throws the rocks, then it will float like that.
The Valmiki Ramayana version that I read doesn't say that. I will help you. I mean, I'll go back and check because you're asking a very specific question. That's not the reading that I've seen.
Thank you.
But it's just, I will help. And this is how you can cross. And he makes this recommendation. But specifically how the rock will float. I will empower the rocks to float because I'm Samudra. And I can defy gravity. Didn't say it like that. I'll check. And if I find otherwise, I'll report it tomorrow evening.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay?
In a
Yes? Then two, and then we're going to end.
just in a similar connection, that there is a story, right? When I don't know whether it's authentic or not.
I don't know where it's from. But here's the story.
Yeah, that Lord Ram tries to put up a throne in the water and it doesn't float;
It
it
sinks.
sinks. And what is that right, authentic, or you can say comment on?
Here's my response to that. When you read Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, there's not a Ramayana, it's just 3 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, where Shukadeva Goswami is narrating to Maharaj Vriksha about the lineage of kings from the Moon Dynasty, and then he comes to the sun, first it's the Sun Dynasty, and then the Moon Dynasty, because Krishna appears in the Moon Dynasty. So when he gets to Ram, he says, there's many versions of Ramayana. That was 5,000 years ago. There's others since then. I'm only going to speak from the authorized ones. So, what you just said, I'm not a scholar of Ramayana, but I've never heard such a thing. From the authorized version. So if you go into the unauthorized versions, I'm sure you can hear lots of other stuff. And the comic book versions and other kinds of commercial popularized versions of things people just accept because that's what they hear since they're kids. So parents should be careful what their kids are exposed to. Like, don't just put them in front of a boob tube and the little comic characters, and then they learn all about pastimes that have nothing to do with pastimes. It's just a commercialized version. I have an issue about that because I've come across people that they grew up viewing Sagar's Mahabharata, and there's some things in Sagar's Mahabharata version that are like offensive. And then but it's got to be because it was I saw it in Sagar's Mahabharata. I can be specific, but one has to be careful because otherwise then there's doubt. Well, what about this example? Rocks that sink. Where'd that come from? Be careful where you hear from. And now you've already heard it, so now you have, dependents, and be sure your dependents are hearing from authorized sources. because they're available, and the others are also available. And if you don't have the authentic, just go to Google Guru, and it'll teach you all kinds of interesting things that have nothing to do with the authentic. And then people get filled up with that stuff.
Just not like often when many ISKCON, brahmacharis or something else. Sometimes it's not like always comic book or video. By seeing that we get those perception.
Yes,
They
I
often also
know
tell
what
us.
you're saying. It was brought to my attention, I won't say what somebody said, but it was brought to my attention that somebody said,
Yes.
a temple president of such and such temple in South India said blah blah blah. I mean, okay, that Love and Kush, one of them was born as the daughter of a son of Sita, and the other was born from the earth. Some temple president in South India said that, and they heard it in their native language, so they wanted me to say, "Is that so?" And I checked people that are very familiar with different Ramayanas and commentaries, and it's like gobbledygook. So where'd that person get it from? I don't know. So be very careful. That's excuse my tone of voice, but be very careful. Say it again. Be very careful. What's the source you're hearing from? And if you hear something that doesn't match that which is authorized, you just leave it to the side. You don't have to discard the person, but the subject just goes over there.
Sure.
And then you're, a little wiser about where you hear from. Last question.
Guru Maharaj, you're saying Bhuloka, in between of Bhuloka and Bhuvaloka there is demons?
There's Bhuvar and Svargaloka. So Bhuvar Loka, the Kinnaras, the Apsaras, and the Rakshasas have their residence in that region. It's not that all Rakshasas live there, but that's a place where Rakshasas inhabit. They have the power to rise above this planet and go to that place.
The question is, now as we're going upper levels, that means elevated souls are going to reside.
Well, they have power. Like their Duskritis. They have kriti that they've misused. That's what a Duskriti means. Kriti means merit or piety. And there's Sukriti and there's Duskriti. Yes? Is that okay?
I was just wondering, on the Bhuloka, all the jivas are living, so we're lower than I don't know.
They have more Sukriti and they're misusing it. What's the problem? Better they're there than here. Read in the final chapter of Canto 5 and you'll find out one of the first topics is the subterranean heavenly planets. If you want to get confused, read that section. Because there's opulence like that of heaven in this lower region. But it's an apparition. It appears to be prosperity and opulence and so forth and so on, and then suddenly kaput. You can read it and try to sort through that one. But it doesn't mean because someone has kriti that they properly use it. They can improperly use it.
Prabhuji, is it okay if I can ask you one question?
Which?
I want to ask a question.
Yes, go ahead.
We are chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So at the end of the life, when we chant, the Krishna is we are going to Godhead. But if we don't remember Krishna at that moment, like due to some reasons, like family situation
Whatever.
or health problem or something like that,
Yeah.
then still we go on now.
It depends. It depends on Krishna. Now, there's different. So the principal consideration is not just what you're doing, but what you're attached to. You follow? Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam jajat ante kalevaram. Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, ante yam yam vapi smaran bhavam jajat ante. Whatever the mind is absorbed in at the moment of death, that's what you're attached to, that's where you go. That's just what you're doing. But you're going to be doing that which you're most attached to. Commonly. Now, so commonly, if someone is attached to something temporary, they're not so likely they're going to remember at the moment of death to chant Krishna's name. Now, it could happen, and then they'll go to Krishna. But supposing someone like you or me has been living their life with devotion, chanting Hare Krishna, and like you described, the health situation is such that you're not thinking of Krishna, and you'll leave the body at that moment. So what happens? That's your question. Whatever you're attached, because your mouth may not be saying Krishna's name, but if that is what you are most attached to, because you've cultivated that and cultivated that and cultivated that, you're attached to Krishna. That's where your mind is, whether you're chanting Krishna's name or not, and you go to Krishna. And then there's some additional. If I had this lengthy discussion with another devotee, back and forth, Krishna can intervene. He makes the rules and he can break the rules that he makes. He can step in and say, you know what, this soul is very sincere, I'm taking them back to me. It's something like what Prabhupada says, the standard way of getting a diploma from a university is you make an application, you get acceptance to the university, you enroll in the courses, you pass the courses, you get a certificate graduating from that university. That's standard. And it's certainly possible that the university can grant an honorary degree, but don't count on it. So it's like the honorary degree. Krishna can step in and just take you.
And one more thing, when I was listening to one lecture in the videos, so the Mataji was saying that when you die before, if you're not chanting also at that moment before the death, then Krishna is going to come and tell you in the ears, he's going to chant the mantra, so your soul can go. Is that true?
He may or may not. It's up to him. Krishna's not obliged to do anything like that.
So how come we are chanting, but not all the mantras we are listening, but only few of them we are able to concentrate due to some reasons? Like
Keep practice. That's what we're supposed to do in a situation like that is practice. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders, bring the mind back. That's the practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. Chetasananya gamino. That's Krishna's. That's what we're supposed to do. Take the description that you just gave. It's not unfamiliar to any of us. And what are we supposed to do? Practice. When Krishna sees, oh, she's very sincere. She's really trying. She's not perfect, but she's really trying. She's very sincere. Let me help her. That's what happens. So there's two things. Effort, prayasa, or abhyasa, practice, and kripa. Both are needed. So don't count on Krishna leaning over and saying the mantra in your ear. He may. That's special mercy. But you show Krishna, I want to be with you. And I'm less than perfect, but I want to be with you. This is Rupa Goswami. I'm shameless. I'm unqualified, but I want your mercy. Please give me your mercy. nectar devotion. Ashabandha. Hope against hope. And when you have that hope against hope, Krishna will see and he'll help you. That's the kripa. But you gotta do the abhyasa. No, Krishna doesn't, even if somebody doesn't do a abhyasa, he just can intervene. If he doesn't have to do anything. But he reciprocates with the love of his devotee, or pranipat, the submission of his devotee. That's Krishna. You want to remain distracted? Okay. I won't interfere. But I want to be with you, I want you to be with me. Here's how. And then you just say yes and you practice. And Krishna will help you because he sees you want. It's not mechanical, it's devotional process. Love.
Then by chanting 16 verse, Prabhuji, we can chant one round like pure-heartedly.
Sure, you can do that. And something that will help you get to one round pure-heartedly is a vrata, a vow. And when pure-hearted chanting takes place, this is Prabhupada speaking in Nairobi, said, why 16 rounds? 16 million rounds. If there's from the heart quality chanting, why 16? Endlessly. That's a long discussion. So that's notional. You know, just one round with full attention, full absorption. And when one has been able to attain that, unlimited, not just one. So therefore, Prabhupada's expression is 16, minimum. It'll help us get to the spontaneous stage. The Chaitadarpana Marjanam, the heart becomes cleansed, so that then it's really from the heart quality. So there's some standard, some vrata to help us get there. We make a commitment to Krishna. I want to be with you. So I'm not strong enough right now. I'm distracted. But I want to become attracted instead of distracted. So I'll make this vow to you. Please help me. And we take that number 16 on the strength of the Acharya. 16. Okay. No quibble. Just you say 16, it's 16.
That's what I think, because I do 16 rounds because of the time situation and work.
Good.
We have to do fast. We think we don't focus on that. At least one round we can focus, and with the other rounds, it's like hectic. Like we do it, but not with wholeheartedly.
Well, we're covering the same territory, and I don't mind saying it again. 16.
I was telling for myself.
I understand, and I'm not repeating for myself. With the instruction comes potency. That's beyond my potency to even chant one round, or to speak of any rounds. Here's what Prabhupada said to one of his disciples. Each time, each day, when you chant your 16 rounds, you have 25,000 chances of perfection. Just say one name with full attention. Perfection. But we're covered. So we need, in Bhakti Sandarbha of Jiva Goswami, he describes in detail why abhyasa. If the potency is there in one name for perfection, just one name. Why do you say one round? Just one name. We're not there, so therefore we have repetition. And the answer has to do with the anarthas, the contaminations of heart. And there's details and details if you like to read the scripture. But it just in principle, we accept in principle, this is the empowered representative of Krishna is giving us this medicine. So we take the medicine. 16 rounds. I follow what you're saying. It's not like I haven't experienced it or haven't heard it, or it's a new idea. We have a good physician. He has good medicine. We follow. We get cured. I like his medicine better than yours. Sorry. But that's the principle that we're accepting.
Quick question. When you said chanting a name with perfection, what do you mean by perfection?
What do I mean by perfection?
like what do you consider this mantra has been chanted perfectly?
That was the question that the devotee in this morning conversation in Nairobi was asking. Your question, how about this? I sent, before I came downstairs, I sent the 18 lessons from Ramayana, from Govindaraj. I'll send this conversation from Nairobi where one devotee asked Prabhupada 3 times. And Prabhupada's answer, he sounded like Prabhupada didn't understand his question. Then he gave a long answer when he did understand his question. So I'll send that, and you can forward it to everybody. And it's a longer answer to that question. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.